Okay, so Mike, thanks for joining us ahead of the season. I guess we'll start then with sort of you on a personal note. How excited are you for the season and what are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm really excited, Bron. It's okay having the break in the middle of the season, but there's nothing like a good Saturday afternoon when there's some football about. And yeah, I love to come and watch the guys. You know, I'm a big supporter as well as chairman of the club, so hugely looking forward to it and can't wait for us to kick off now.
And like you say, you've missed the football, and what have you missed the most about it?
I've missed that buzz of getting up on a Saturday morning, the anticipation, you know, the look at where we are and the hope that we can actually get into the playoffs and promotion. So yeah, I mean, it's just the excitement that surrounds every football supporter, I suppose.
And like you say, the fans and the Sparrites are getting excited now. So what as a board and you personally, what sort of are your expectations ahead of the season, and what can you tell supporters that you guys are expecting to come from this 2022-23 season?
Well, we're hoping for a good season. We're hoping that we improve on last year. I mean, the Trust has been in charge of the club for 2 years now. The first year we made the quarter-final playoffs and failed. We made the semi-final playoffs last year, didn't make it. This year we're looking for improvement on that. And I think the squad that Paul has put together will give us something, you know, some sort of success, I hope. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and that's our expectation, that we'll build on what we have before. You always put building blocks down and want to improve from season to season, so yeah, that's got to be the aim for us.
And like you say, it's about building every season. So we went quarter-finals and then we got to the semi-finals of the playoff last year. So obviously the next one is either getting to the final or sort of winning automatic promotion. And what do you personally and the board believe it's going to take, and what's the difference between getting playoffs and winning promotion?
Well, I think it's very difficult. I mean, everybody knows that this league is a very difficult league, and there's a number of clubs that have bought well, a number of clubs have spent quite a lot of money, and they've strengthened. And I think that this league now, for me, is comparable to League Two, particularly at the higher end of it. And I think that you need a little bit of luck, particularly around injuries, which we didn't have last year. And so we're hoping that the way that we're set up this year and the investment that we put into the backroom staff will enable us to stay not injury free, but not have the horrendous injuries that we had last year. So that plus a little bit of luck and some good players.
And then going onto the fan side of things, obviously we're really close to the start of the season now. In terms of season tickets, do you know how many have been sold, and are you happy with the amount that have been sold, and what do you think we can do to increase that number?
Yeah, you've got to be happy. I mean, our fans are brilliant. I mean, I've said that many times. We've exceeded what we had last year, and that included the extra 400 that we had for the Chelsea game, because we sold half-season tickets and people bought them on the expectations of getting a Chelsea ticket. But we've gone past that and we're approaching 3,500 now. And yes, we're pushing all the time. I mean, we're about to bring an initiative out to buy half-season tickets right from the start of the season to help those people that can't afford the big layout right up front. So we're always looking to see what we can do, and maybe next year we'll try and look for a partner where we could actually get people to pay on more instalments than they do at this point in time.
And in terms of the half-season tickets, when that was first mentioned on the board, how was the response, and what is the general thinking around the half-season tickets? Is it obviously the cost of living crisis at the minute must be a big factor?
Absolutely, and that's it in a nutshell, the cost of living crisis, and that they're struggling, and we try to recognise that as a community club. So yeah, I think the response has been a little bit mixed. I think one or two people thought that they were overpriced. What we have said is that anybody who buys the second half of the season ticket come Christmas, then we'll revert back to what the original price was. So they won't be penalised for buying the ticket in two halves.
And was the season ticket total that we've currently sold higher than expected, and were there any targets set, and if so, what was it for season tickets?
Well, again, you always want to build on what you had before. We had a great season last year, especially with the extra 400 that we sold at Christmas. So we wanted to exceed that, and we've smashed that. And so yeah, we're delighted with that. But we're always looking for more supporters to come through, and we've got the community trust working very hard with schools and with a lot of partner clubs, to bring their youngsters down here to create young Spyrites right from the start. So hopefully that will pay dividends this year and in years to come.
And then let's move on to the playing side of things then. So a lot of supporters are obviously always interested in this sort of thing, and understandably so. So, as the chairman, can you tell us anything more about, during the season, if we get to September and Paul Cook feels like he might need some more players, is there budget there for Paul Cook to strengthen the squad during the season? And what sort of your thoughts around bringing players in during the season?
Well, I think that the budget is always important, and Paul's been given a budget. We do realise that when you're changing a squad like we have, Paul's taken something like 14 players out of the club and brought 11 back in, so it's very fluid at the moment, and we knew that there would be investment up front, which we've got, and a lot of that is thanks to our new investors who've worked with us on that. Yes, we'll always look, if Paul wants to strengthen it, we'll look at each individual case. His squad is near enough there at this point in time. There may be one, possibly two more to come in, but that will only be if he thinks that they can improve the squad that we've already got. So yeah, we'll never say never. We always want to improve the squad because we want success.
And is the loan market something that during the season that the board are happy to look into?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's not a problem, and I think that comes without the long-term commitment as well. So it's always another string to the bow, I think.
And then what more can you tell us about the players that are on the transfer list? Obviously we've got Calvin Miller, Lawrence Mcguire and Kwasi Sante and Gavin Gunning. Is there anything more you can tell us on those four players?
Yeah, Gavin has left the club. He left about a week ago. I don't think we've actually put that out yet, but yes, Gavin has left. Mutually agreed with him, so we've come up with a settlement figure for him. And I think George Carline has left the club as well now. We kept George on for a period and paid him while we got him fit, and we carried out our responsibilities towards George, I think. But George now wants to move on and look elsewhere for his football. So.
And Lawrence Mcguire and Calvin Miller, are they still on the transfer list?
Yes, they are. Kwasi is not. We've taken Kwasi off the transfer list now, which has pleased him tremendously, and me as well. I like Kwasi. I think he's a great lad and a good footballer as well. And he's worked really hard in pre-season training, and so I think he's got the result that he deserved.
And you spoke about George Carline there, obviously left the club now. What was sort of the thinking? We speak a lot about being a community club, and I think the response was really good when it came out about George Carline being offered to keep and rehabilitate here.
Yeah.
What was the thinking around that as a club?
Well, for me, it's our responsibilities. George was injured playing for the club, and it's up to us to make sure that George has the opportunities going forward. And it was important that we got him back to where he could start his pre-season training, get himself fit, and put himself in the shop window for another club to look at. Paul had said that he's happy with the squad that we've got, and therefore George was surplus to requirements.
And then, on a personal note, Mike, I know there's a lot of supporters that are interested in this sort of thing. You've obviously seen quite a few of the new signings play now. Are there any other ones that you're quite looking forward to seeing? And which sort of are the pick of the bunch are you most looking forward to watching on a Saturday afternoon? Yeah,
there's a number that have taken my eye that I like to see because they're exciting players. And the likes of Armando Dobra, he looks a real find. He's a great footballer. He's got speed, pace. He turns very quickly, and I think that if he's allowed to, he'll cause a lot of problems. But also on top of that, we brought in Ollie Banks, and it's lovely to see a footballer, pass long distances with the outside of his foot. It's a real skill, and Ollie is a great addition to the squad. But the one that I really do like to see, I think will come on leaps and bounds, having played for us and coming full time, is Darren Holdacre. I think Darren looks a great player, and so I'm looking forward to seeing him. But it's not just the players that have come in. I think there's great credit goes to the backroom team, because a lot of the lads who were with us last year have come back enthused. They've come back inspired, and the likes of Joe up front. I think I've always liked Joe. I've always thought they've got the attributes of a great striker, and I think he's beginning to show that now. So Jamie Grimes is showing his leadership qualities at centre-back. Ty Williams had a great game at Boston last Friday. So the players that we got in the squad, I think it shows that we did have a decent squad to start with. Paul has added to that and added to it really well. And I think what we've got is a mix of a really good setup and a really good side now. I love the type of football that we play. So it's great.
And then obviously the National League, it does get... it's the old cliche, isn't it? This league never gets any easier. It does seem to get tougher every single year. And what clubs have you got your eye on this year that you think might be up there fighting? And what about those clubs makes you think that they're going to be up there fighting for the title or promotion?
Everybody talks about Wrexham, and I think Wrexham will be up there. They've spent really well. They've spent a lot of money. and they will want to build on where they were last year, and they just failed last year, so they'll be keen to make sure that they get up there. I'm not so sure I share the bookies' optimism at odds on for promotion, because a lot of things can happen during the season, as we saw last year with injuries. But one of the clubs that I think has bought really well, and I think will do well, is Solihull. I think that they've added one or two key players to a good squad that they had last time, and they finished the season very strongly. So I think they will be up there. The unknowns of Oldham and Scunthorpe, I'm not sure about, but you will have a number of clubs that, for me, there is one dark horse that I think will come through, and I'll be keeping an eye on, and that's Woking. Yes. I think Darren Searle has gone down there. He's bought well, and they finished the season quite well. They came here and drew with us 0-0. So I think Woking could be one to watch.
Well, you just took my next question right out of my mouth, Mike, there, because my next question was about the dark horses. So you're definitely going for Woking as your dark horse. Is there any other sort of smaller clubs that you expect to do well this year?
I think it's difficult for the smaller clubs because, there's a lot of money being spent in the National League at the moment. And, as we've seen with the Premier League, money sometimes does talk. Not all the time. Yeah. I mean, it depends on a lot of other circumstances and factors as well. But I believe that we've spent well as a club ourselves. We've not overspent. Paul Cook has been very keen to make sure that this myth that Chesterfield was a wealthy club has been blown out the water. And so there are targets that we've gone for, and if they've tried to hold out for more money, we've walked away. Yeah. And we want to make sure that the other clubs know that Chesterfield isn't somebody where you can come and get easy money from. So Paul has been very shrewd in that area, and he's done some really good business.
And then talking more on now the board initiatives and what's been going on sort of off the field, I know a lot of supporters are quite interested in the news that they heard in the latest podcast about the new training ground. So yeah. Is there any more that you can tell us, and has there been any sort of updates on what's happening with the new training ground plans?
There's no update from what I said on the podcast. We've put the offer in. And we're waiting for a response from the organisation that owns it. I understand that the person dealing with it is not back until the 2nd of August, and so hopefully after that we'll see some movement.
And then the planned sensory room again, I think this has been touched on a couple of times. I'm not sure if it was touched on in the podcast, but again we've had lots of supporters inquire about the sensory room and just to sort of ask for a general update on that.
Yeah, well, the sensory room is still going ahead. That will be built opposite the entrance to the trust, across on the east stand. We're waiting at the moment. We've got planning permission for it, but one of the things that we haven't got is funding, and we've applied for a number of areas to bring some grant funding in to be able to enable us to do this. So that's a work in progress, but yeah, that's something that we hope will happen during the season.
And then there's the 3G pitch at Stam Road. Has there been any more updates on that one?
That one is a bit like pulling teeth. We've been working with the Football Foundation and the local authority and some of the funders. We're ready to go. I know Terry is pulling his hair out at times, trying to get everybody around the table, but I think we have some movement on it at long last, and I'm hopeful that in the next few weeks that we'll get the go ahead and we can start work.
And then finally on the board initiatives, there's a big one that we've not spoke about yet that I think a lot of fans very, very eager to find out more and more information about every single day is obviously the supporters bar, the 1866 supporters bar. So what's the plans with that?
Well, same as I said on the podcast, we've put the planning application in. It's been bouncing back between us and Chesterfield Borough Council. They wanted a number of changes making to it. We've spoken and negotiated with them on that. We've finally got the application back in for approval with all of the alterations that they've asked for, as I understand it. So in the next couple of weeks we're hoping that we'll have some movement. I suppose that depends if it's determined by the officers or whether it has to go to the Cabinet for approval.
And then quite recently there was obviously Ashley Kirk who joined the board. Sort of how's he settled onto the board, I suppose?
Yeah, Ash has made a great addition to the board. He's come in, he's a fan himself, but he's very enthusiastic. He's brought his business acumen into the club as well. He's currently looking at a 5-year strategy for us, and he works well with every other member of the board. But he's excited, same as we all are. We're all supporters, and he's a Chesterfield lad and wants to see the club do well. So.
And do you think that's key, that he's a supporter, and why do you think that is key, if so?
Absolutely. I think it's key that everybody who is on the board isn't there for any other reasons other than they want the club to succeed. and that's important. And Ashley is one of those, the same as the other 6 of us.
And the new kits have been released. The goalkeeper kits are now also out in the club superstore. What's your opinion on the kits? Do you like them? And how have sales been going?
I do, actually. I like the 2 goalkeeper kits. I like the one that they had at Boston the other night. And I think the blue kit is great. I'm not sure why we're playing in blue shorts this year. I did see that again at Boston and asked the question. Apparently we are. Yeah, I think the kits are good, and they're going very well in the superstore. So, I hope we'll sell many more.
And in terms of the club superstore, what are the plans going forward to sort of increase merchandising there? Is there any sort of plans, and are you open to sort of suggestions from fans about sort of what sort of merchandise they want in there?
Absolutely. I mean, if fans have got any ideas that they want bringing forward, then please, just send them into the club. But we have Bridget, our marketing manager, who's responsible for that area of things. She's looking at different merchandising. We have brought 1 or 2 different things in already. We're trying to expand that and bring as many income streams back into the club as we possibly can.
And then obviously we're sat in front of the pitch is behind us, Mike, and I think it's fair to say that it's looking very nice. Are you as a board happy with how the pitch is, and what are your plans going forward with the pitch with the new groundsman? How's he settled in as well?
Yeah, we're delighted with the pitch. It's in excellent condition at the moment. Paul Cook said after the Bradford game that it was superb, and we aim to keep it that way. We inherited contracts with Sheffield United for their ladies team and their under-23s, which we couldn't get out of for 2 years, and that resulted in last year's pitch being very poor towards the end of the season. But we've had it completely relayed. We've got a new groundsman in Josh, and he's doing a fantastic job. I mean, Josh is a supporter again himself, and so he treats it as his own domain, and he's doing a great job with it. So yeah, it's in good condition.
And then again, around plans on the stadium, we've had a few supporters ask about the concourses and whether there's any plans to sort of increase the interior in there and maybe change the interior. Is there any sort of plans, and has it been spoken about in any of the board meetings?
No, I mean, we're always looking at ways that we can improve the ground. There's no 2 ways about that, and there are some shortcomings with the concourses, but at this point in time, what we've done is had the volunteers in, they've cleaned them up, they've painted them, they've made them look much better for the start of the season. But structurally, it's difficult to make those alterations without incurring a lot of money. So we will be looking at it, and it'll be something that we discuss as we go forward with Terry and his team.
And then also on the concourses, a few fans have been asking about whether there'll be any sort of additional beer choices this year or food choices, and if not, are there any plans going forward to change that?
Yes, we're always keen to improve the offer that we've got on the concourses, and I know that there have been some suggestions about different types of food that we might supply. It is difficult because, as you can be aware, we have to make sure that the food is of the right quality and safe for people to eat. But I'd be really happy to listen to supporters if they've got some suggestions about the sort of things that they would like being served under the concourses. It's always difficult to satisfy everybody, and the old pie and peas or the old pie and pint that people have been around football concourses for a long time. But if we can improve that, yeah, I'm more than happy to look at that.
And then we'll move on to the community trust before we finish. Obviously, there's been some really good initiatives running. How proud are you guys as a board of what's going on over there? And is there any plans to up what we're doing over at the trust?
Absolutely. I mean, the trust is a magnificent organisation. The way that it's come forward from 8 years ago to where it is now is absolutely unbelievable, and a credit to John Crute and all of the staff that he's got. I mean, we have some excellent people who work across there, and I don't think people really understand the breadth of the work that the trust does. I mean, people used to think that it was, a bag of balls and a bloke going out to a school. It's gone far way beyond that, and that is probably one of the smaller areas that we deal with now. But we are a true community club. I mean, this week we've got 4 weeks. This is the second one, I think, of Camp Inspire at a school down at Whittington, and we've got, I think it's nearly 300 people who are down there from all sorts of different areas, people who are disadvantaged, and people who want to come down. It really is a fantastic initiative, but on top of that, we also provide opportunities for people as well, both from young right through to old people. So
And then the England Lionesses obviously won the European Championships over the weekend. As a club, do we expect to sort of see any increase in female participation? Has there already been any talks between the board about how we can sort of capitalise on this massive opportunity as a country to see female participation in football increasing? Is there any sort of plans as a club to do anything around that since the women won the Euros?
Well, I mean, it's still very new. I mean, it was only a couple of days ago. But what I would say is that Justin and Neil are always looking at ways to expand girls and ladies football, and we get grants from the FA to do that, and we've been doing that for a number of years now. We've set up the new ladies team that people will be aware of that we've just launched, and we're getting good participation from girls in the area. And it's about giving them the opportunity, and we're going to work with the schools to make sure that that opportunity is there, and Chesterfield Football Club will support that as much as they possibly can.
Well, Mike, thanks very much for joining us. I think that covers pretty much everything, and I think we'll just finish then with, do you have any sort of message to the Sparrites ahead of the season?
Yeah, it is. Come down, support the boys, let's get behind them, and let's make sure we get back to League 2 this season.